This is The Insider. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Browning. Joining us today, Mayor Shane McFarland, our guest on The Insider. Good to have you.
Always great to be here.
We're here to talk about panhandling. There's some signs downtown now, and really a better way to give. And a better way to give is a way that people can contribute and make sure that the funds that they give are used in a valuable way. How did this whole campaign get started from the council in your view?
You know, if you go back and really research it, the panhandling issue started about 10 years ago, where it really ramped up, and it was ramping up in communities all across the South where groups would find municipalities that did not have stringent panhandling laws. And so the city council passed a panhandling law that basically just said it's not safe to get out in the public right of way or on the basically in the street and ask for donations. And so that really started the whole process. And then we at the council retreat we talked about different things, and one of the things that we talked about is how do we support our charitable organizations here in Murfreesboro, and that's sort of where this whole idea was born.
And these organizations provide so much for not just the homeless, but other people who are in need. Food assistance, shelter, medical care. What are some of those that come to mind in your view?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Doors of Hope, you've got Coal Patrol, you've got Journey Home. I mean, you've got so many groups. Greenhouse Ministries, they're not part of the COC, but they're a significant player in Murfreesboro. But you have all these organizations that I reference them to, they're the boots on the ground. And there's only so much as a city. We don't have those relationships, although our homeless division that we have and inside our police department, Sergeant Wood and his entire team, I mean, they know everyone by name that are on the streets. And so that's something about creating those relationships. And that's why we really were just saying that instead of giving money to someone on the side of the road, we want to be able to promote that there's a better way to give to support these organizations who are making sure that those services are being provided.
So for citizens, there are signs being posted downtown in the square area with a QR code that they can easily go to, and most people are familiar with that. And you can find information on there so you can get to these organizations. There's also a website that it goes to. It's murfreesborotn.gov/better way for better way to give. And we want to make sure that people see that if they're watching it here on YouTube, so they can make it easy for themselves. The notion of using that information in a sign downtown was mainly just to streamline it for people?
I think that was, yes, that was one of the things that really the city council and the staff had researched on. The easy thing is just to put out, hey, panhandling's prohibited, but is there a better way to be able to get the word out to these organizations that are doing the majority of the work in our community? And we felt like you could scan the QR code and see who are the organizations, if anything, to give some publicity and to give some awareness to those groups who are doing that work.
And you've said this before publicly, that these organizations are familiar with, they're experienced at doing this, and we want to be able to help support the organizations that are, like you said, boots on the ground. They're
Yes.
right there helping people.
Yeah, we want to support the organizations, but also I think it's important that we stress, and Mike, I think sometimes it gets conflated that the city council, that we're just sitting and trying to come up with ideas to hurt a specific group, and that is not the case. I mean, that's not who Murfreesboro is. That's not who we ever have been. We always want to be able to lift a helping hand to those in need. But also when we have our police department, that they come to us and they say, hey, we have an issue with this. And when someone is literally out in the road, knocking on someone's window, that is not safe for the motorist, and that's definitely not safe for the person who's out in the road. And there are instances where we've been able to see where that is extremely dangerous, and our police department came and said, hey, let's try to find something that will work to be able to accomplish both goals.
And the police department, as you indicated before, also has like an organization that they call HOST, and it's for homeless individuals and providing services and resources. They also have a website, but I guess what I wanted to talk about with them is how they have volunteer health experts that go out and help them with mental illness issues. So the police department is actively engaged in trying to help in this way as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the city council funded years ago the ability to put a mental health provider in with our police officers and to make calls. And I mean, I was at my office the other day and saw one of those interactions where the individual got out and was talking through and sat down on the sidewalk with someone. So I mean, we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're not just saying don't give. I mean, if I had to guess, Mike, I wouldn't even want to guess how much the city of Murfreesboro puts in our host group and Sergeant Wood and his team that we want to make sure that we provide the services. But look, and I've said this before, I think as you get older, your focus changes. When I was in my early 30s and I'm on the ball field every night, which still seem to be on the ball field every night, you think of things differently. And I think safety is paramount in a community. That we can fuss about traffic, we can talk about all those things, but you need to feel safe in your community. And that's one of the things that our police have really put an emphasis on, is getting to the root of the problem to say, okay, how can we help? And that's what our team continues to do.
And this issue came up at the community meeting that was held at First Presbyterian Church. There seemed to be a lot of people that were very concerned about the issue of homelessness, both from the standpoint of providing and from safety. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a mixed group. And I think you've got one group over here on one side that says, we should allow whatever, we should be able to have lax rules. If someone wants to camp on the sidewalk, they should be able to do that. And then you have one group over here that says we don't want any of that. We want, and so I think what we're trying to do is to find a middle ground. And Mike, you've heard me say this. I mean, I think the majority of our community does not want what one group wants on the far end, but at the same time, we just have to make sure that the people in our downtown area specifically are safe. And I don't think that individuals understand the amount of interaction and calls or emails that we get about specific instances where someone had an issue. And that's what we're trying to do, is to make sure we're proactive on those items.
The council adopted an ordinance some time ago regarding this, a Section 21S3, I think, for unlawful solicitations. And that mainly has to do with what you refer to as when you step into the street or you're near an interstate,
right,
that it's not safe. And that's why the city wanted to promote that.
There is a constitutional right to be on a sidewalk or in the public right of way. And we're not trying to prohibit that. But what we are saying is the minute that you step off the sidewalk into the road, that is not safe, and that's against our ordinance. So those are the issues that we have to make sure and protect. And I mean, as you know, Mike, we have our traffic and our transportation issues in Murfreesboro already, and we don't want to do anything that adds to those problems by putting people out in the middle of the street. That's something the council's really focused on, is pedestrian walkability and the abilities for pedestrians to not necessarily have to drive a car everywhere. And so we want to make sure that we protect those right-of-ways.
And so just to be clear, to emphasize again, we're not saying that it's unlawful to give. You can give to people. If someone asks you for money, that's considered a right that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that once that you step off of that sidewalk into the road, or you cross that white line to get into the road, that's against our ordinance. And I think that's really why we wanted to be able to have these signs, not only to say that there's a better way to give through these organizations, but secondly, to make sure that we keep people safe.
I guess we should close with, I know Journey Home does a lot for the homeless downtown. And they are going to be moving to another location.
Yes.
They had an event on that. What can you share? What can you tell us about that in terms of when we think that will happen?
Yeah, Journey Home does a great job. I think fall, so late fall, early winter, they're looking. I want to say it's the November time frame that they'll have their facility up and running. And we've had some pretty substantive discussions with them over the last 2 or 3 weeks on areas that, we both have agreed that there could be a little better guidelines in place. I think, Mike, what we've talked about is with Town Creek being built, with Cannonsburg, that used to be one of our most highly sought out used trailheads, that what we really want to look is a better way that we can make sure that we protect those areas, that we provide those services.
Because I know the Greenway Arts Festival is coming up, and it's going to be held at Cannonsburg this year.
Yeah, we're really excited about that.
So the point is that you're probably trying to get Journey Home involved, and they've been willing to do that in accountability with
Russ
people
Galloway,
they're serving.
Leslie Dodd Carl, Scott Foster have all been. What we've talked about is that, and I think this really goes to more of an overriding issue that we look at regionally, that there are not many communities who are providing these types of services, and so what happens is individuals will flock to the communities that are providing the services.
Build it, they will come.
That's exactly it. And so you look at the data. And there's several different metrics. There's an unhoused metric where, if you're staying with your aunt and you don't have a home, there's a metric for that and data for that. But, that number that we have in what we say true homelessness that the United Way keeps up with, it's somewhere between that 350 to 400 count of individuals, and that number has stayed pretty steady. The number that is a little concerning is, I think it's 37 or 40% of that number is people who've been here less than 6 months or a year. So you're really looking at just say 200 people roughly. Well, that wouldn't be 40%. So roughly 120 people are new to the community, and so that's one of the things that we have to make sure that we continually monitor.
All right, and you just opened a new transit center, and it's now open to the public.
Yes.
So that was exciting, and I know September 8th is the date that it actually opens to the public.
Yeah, we're that's been a long, hard process of getting that built, and I think we're going to see sort of the fruits of our labor as that turns out to be a hub of being able to provide a better service.
All right, Mayor, thanks a lot for being our guest on the
Thanks,
Insider.
Mike.
Appreciate you. We've been highlighting a better way to give in our community here in Murfreesboro with helping the unhoused and those in need in our community. Our podcast originated from City Hall. Thanks for joining us on our many platforms. Our producer is the award-winning Michael Nevels. Insider is the official podcast for the City of Murfreesboro. I'm Mike Browning, and thanks a lot for joining us.